Wysokiej przedstawiciel Anita Hipper.
Thank you very much. Welcome to our press conference following the Informal Foreign Affairs Ministerial here in Warsaw, which was chaired by the High Representative Kaja Kallas and hosted by the Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski. Without further ado, High Representative, the floor is yours, and then Minister, the floor is yours, and after that we'll take your questions.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here in Warsaw again, and this Gymnich format meeting, where we had very frank, very open discussions on very many issues that are topical today. Of course, first, Ukraine. There is extensive diplomacy going on, but it is clear that Russia shows no signs of wanting peace. What we have to do is put more pressure on Russia so that also Russia would want peace, because we know that Ukraine already agreed to unconditional ceasefire over 50 days ago. And we also have to support Ukraine so that they can defend themselves. So what do we do for this? We are working on the 17th sanctions package, which hopefully we are ready to adopt on the next Foreign Affairs Council. Then we just recently issued a roadmap to get rid of Russian energy, and also part of it is how we deal with the shadow fleet. That is also part where the funding for this war is coming. And then, of course, how can we more support Ukraine? Then the security guarantees that the Coalition of the Willing is discussing, but also on the European side, we have the training missions that we can also discuss what more can we do in this regard. Tomorrow, we are going to Ukraine, and we are going to make available 1 billion for Ukraine's defense industry. I think, again, a very important sign for Ukraine. We will also tomorrow give the final political endorsement to establishment of war crimes tribunal, crimes of aggression. There will be no impunity. There will be accountability for the crimes committed. Also, those who have really started this war. And as we have the 9th of May tomorrow, which is a Europe Day, then I want to stress that all those who truly support peace cannot stand side by side by Putin, who has started this full-scale war of aggression in Ukraine, and who truly support peace should be in Ukraine rather than in Moscow tomorrow. Then we also discussed the key peace parameters that we have already agreed previously. First, independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity, no de jure recognition of occupation or occupied territories. Then ceasefire has to be full and unconditional and implemented immediately. And there has to be also strong monitoring system, and it has to be clear on different elements. Then no restriction to Ukraine's right to self-defense. That means no demilitarization of Ukraine. Robust security guarantees are needed for any peace to last. Then Ukraine's freedom to its future. That means no neutrality. And also Ukraine is on track of the EU accession. We also stress that the prisoners of war have to be returned, the deported children have to be returned, and detained civilians as well. Sanctions must stay in place as long as Russia will pay for the damages that they have caused. And no negotiations about Ukraine without Ukraine, and no negotiations about European security without Europe. Then, although it wasn't on the agenda, of course, what is happening in Gaza is on everybody's mind, and therefore we also discussed this. And the majority of European countries agreed that the situation in Gaza is untenable and rapidly deteriorating, and these plans to intensify military operation in Gaza will lead to further suffering of civilian population. And We also reject any attempt of demographic or territorial changes in Gaza Strip, as well as forced displacement of Palestinian population. We urge Israel to lift the blockade on Gaza immediately and ensure that the humanitarian aid reaches the people who are in need. And the humanitarian aid has to be respect the principles of humanitarian action, which means humanity, impartiality, neutrality, and independence. And of course, we also demand that all the remaining hostages are immediately released and also the parties resume to the ceasefire. Then on Pakistan and India, I today again spoke to both ministers to convey the messages of de-escalation. I think nobody wins from this war. So it is clear that they have to really exercise restraint. There is always a risk of miscalculation, and I hope that we can bring the tensions down. Of course, we condemn terrorism and any loss of lives on the side of India as well as Pakistan. We deplore the loss of life. And it is important that the channels of communication remain open and will be opened by the military commanders. So I hope that we can all convey these messages to really bring the tensions down. The world does not need another war. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister.
Potwierdzając każde słowo wysokiej przedstawiciel, chciałbym tylko dodać, że wielkim zaszczytem i przyjemnością było dla mnie zobaczyć powrót Wielkiej Brytanii na Gymnich w osobie ministra spraw zagranicznych Davida Lamiego. Przywróciliśmy także tradycję spotkania z kandydatami, a także tradycję tego, że na marginesie Gymnich małżonkowie ministrów mogą zwiedzić, poczuć kulturę w kraju, w którym się znajdują. Osobiście odbyłem też spotkanie dwustronne z nowym ministrem spraw zagranicznych Niemiec oraz spotkanie w Trójkącie Weimarskim. Nie będę powtarzał tego, co powiedziała o sprawach politycznych wysoka przedstawiciel, która prowadziła nasze sesje dotyczące wojny w Ukrainie i stosunków ze Stanami Zjednoczonymi. Ja prowadziłem sesję z państwami kandydującymi. Chciałbym wyjaśnić, antycypując Państwa pytanie, że Ukraina nie wzięła udziału, mimo że jest krajem kandydującym, tylko dlatego, że dzisiaj w Kijowie głosowano umowę ze Stanami Zjednoczonymi w sprawie minerałów i minister Sybicha w porozumieniu ze mną uznał, że to jest tak ważna sprawa, że musi być w stolicy swojego kraju, a z nim widzimy się jutro w Lwowie. Dziękuję Kai Kallas za obecność w Warszawie. Gymnich, najważniejsze spotkanie polskiej prezydencji w dziedzinie spraw zagranicznych dobiegł końca. Mam jeszcze jedną wiadomość, że tak jak już odbyliśmy jedną konferencję międzyrządową w związku z rozszerzeniem z Albanią, tak prawdopodobnie otworzymy kolejny klaster właśnie z Albanią. Niestety klastry z Ukrainą są wetowane przez Węgry.
Thank you so much. We'll start with your questions. Please present yourself and the media outlet you're working for. Stefan, then Philippe. The floor is yours. Yeah. First row.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Stefan Iser for Europe Table. My question to you, High Representative. You said Europeans should be tomorrow in Ukraine, not in Moscow. So President Vučić, Serbia's president, decided to go to Moscow despite calls not to do it. What is your message to him? What did you tell his foreign ministers? I think he was present today. And what will be the impact in general on Serbia's accession to the EU? Thank you.
Well, on the positive side, Serbian military is not participating at the parade. I mean, that would have been a really next level step. But of course, it remains on the conscience of all these people who are going really side by Putin, who is waging a war right now, not in a history, but right now, the biggest war in Europe since the Second World War. Of course, like I said before, member states are not taking this lightly. And when we are discussing, next steps, then member states have a lot of questions. Who is your friend with whom you are really dealing with?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to underline that High Representative in our discussions highlighted the need to counter Russian narratives, also to do with the Second World War. They do have one point, namely, if you follow Western media, you might think that the most important battle of the Second World War was D-Day. Actually, 80% of German war losses happened on the Eastern Front. So that was the decisive theater of the war. But remember, Vladimir Putin absurdly claims that his invasion of Ukraine is to fight the Nazis. And he will be celebrating victory of the Nazis, over Nazism. So he's trying to confound the issue, to put things back to front. Ukraine is a democratic country. Russia has more prisoners today, political prisoners, than she did under the late Soviet Union. We must have moral clarity about who is the aggressor and who is the victim of aggression, and the Second World War should not be used to cloud the issue.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Gentleman, second row.
Bonjour, Philippe Jacquet, Le Monde. I have a question on Gaza. After 2 months of humanitarian blockade and the adoption of the Israeli government of its conquest plan of Gaza, what is the way forward for the EU? Do you feel there can be a consensus to go beyond condemnation of the situation? And should there be more pressure on Israel? And in a letter, the Foreign Minister of Netherlands asked a review of the Article 2 of the current EU-Israel Association Council. Do you see room to address this demand?
Of course, yesterday we discussed this intensively, and the frustration among the member states that we can't stop this is tremendous. One of the proposals was from the Foreign Minister of Netherlands, and we agreed that we will discuss this proposal on the next Foreign Affairs Council that takes place on the 20th of May. And of course, also brainstorming, what more can we do? Of course, you know very well that on certain issues we have very divergent views. I mean, if you don't hear our discussions that we have inside the rooms, just listen to the European Parliament and the discussions there about Gaza and Israel, and you get the flavor. What is also, I mean, what are the differences between different member states? But we will try to find ways to sanction violent settlers. We have tried that before, but I mean, situation has changed, so we will definitely make again, efforts.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, gentlemen.
If I may add, Poland, of course, recognizes the right of Israel to live peacefully within internationally recognized borders, Israel's right to defend itself. We condemn the heinous Hamas attack of the 7th of October. But we'd like to remind Israel that as the occupying power of both the West Bank and of the Gaza Strip, it is Israel that is responsible for the welfare of the people who live there. So if Israel doesn't want our money to feed those people, it is Israel's duty to do so.
Thank you. Gentleman in the back.
Dzień dobry, Karol Kostrzewa, Polska Agencja Prasowa. Chciałem zapytać o 17. pakiet sankcji, nad którym pracuje Komisja Europejska. Kiedy ten pakiet ma szansę być uchwalony? Jakie będą główne jego rozwiązania oprócz tych wymierzonych we flotę cieni? I jak Państwo oceniają skuteczność pozostałych, poprzednich 16 pakietów? Dziękuję bardzo.
Well, I'll say one sentence. Since the Russians are so keen to lift the sanctions, they must be biting.
But on the 17th package, so we aim to adopt it by the Foreign Affairs Council that is happening on the 20th of May. And what is in it? There's a lot of things that are in it, but as long as it is not agreed, it's not fully agreed. So I will not open. You said shadow fleet, that is truly there, and there are other elements there as well. I'm happy that we put forward a package, and like Minister said, I mean, they are biting, and I think in order for Russia to want peace, we have to put more pressure, and sanctions is one of the tools.
Gentleman, second row in the middle.
Thank you so much. Henry Foy, Financial Times. Foreign Minister, yesterday you said, quote, Europe should prepare for the US washing its hands of Europe. Do you think your 26 colleagues here today who you had a discussion on US relations agree with you? And if not, why not? And High Representative, do you also agree with what Mr. Sikorski said about that? Thanks.
Well, the US Defense Secretary told us this quite clearly. I was just paraphrasing his words. My sense of our meetings is that there is general consensus that we need to do more to protect ourselves, and we also received good news. Our Spanish colleague only arrived this morning because yesterday Spain agreed to lift its defense budget to 2% of GDP. Poland, of course, leads by example, 4.7% of GDP. Security in Europe is unevenly distributed, and not by coincidence, the closer you are to Russia, the more you spend.
Of course, the discussions we had, EU-US relations are very important, and so we discussed how to make them better. But it's no secret to any of you that, I mean, there are difficulties with new administration. So definitely we are working, stressing on the positive sides, and the transatlantic bond is very important. And recently we have heard good messages also coming from the other side of Atlantic, saying that we are close with Europe. And what was it from the conference that Vice President Vance actually said there? I mean, positive signals also towards Europe. So I'm an optimist by nature, so I think we are on a positive path.
It's nice to hear that we are one civilization after all.
Thank you. First row.
Thank you very much. I'm Lily Bayer from Reuters. A question for the High Representative. President Macron said earlier this week that he would urge the European Union to end sanctions on Syria when they come up for renewal in June. Do you agree with him that these sanctions should be allowed to expire? Thank you.
Thank you. We have currently the ongoing discussions about the sanctions relief on Syria. And I was happy to read that actually President Macron is in favor of the relief of sanctions. So I hope that also goes to the working level. Thank you.
I personally believe that when there is a new government, a new regime in this case, which is saying the right thing, the rational thing to do is to make a positive opening move and then see what the other side does.
Gentleman, second row first.
My name is Kazimierz Łysiak. I'm from TVP World. A question to both High Representative and Minister Sikorski. The United States administration has said that it will step back from the mediation process and that Ukraine and Russia should now be involved in direct talks. Is this something that the EU would support, direct negotiations between Ukraine
and Russia, with Ukraine, of course, saying that it wouldn't agree to such a solution until a ceasefire is there in place.
It is clear that no negotiations can go on when the war is, waging. So first there has to be ceasefire so that the parties can sit down. But it's clear that the war is between Russia and Ukraine, and it's also Russia and Ukraine that need to agree on what is the end of this.
Of course, we wish success to the United States on mediation efforts. But if that track fails, there are other candidates. There is Turkey, which keeps channels of communication. And then there is, above all, the People's Republic of China, which uniquely has the means to force Putin to the negotiating table and to moderate his demands.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Lady in first row.
Thank you. Ksenia Polska for Deutsche Welle. I have a question, actually different questions for both of you. High Representative, you just mentioned a very different news about your announcement on the special tribunal tomorrow in Lviv. We know that the US, who supported this tribunal, basically disappeared from the core group. It did not attend the last meeting. So what does this imply for the accountability on the crime of aggression in Ukraine? And also, in which scenario do you see the US actually coming back to the core group? And Minister, question for you, since Ukraine wasn't here for very important reasons today, what are the key takeaways for Ukraine and its supporters from these 2 days in Warsaw? Thank you.
First on the accountability. I mean, we have the international law in place that says that, you know, all these United Nations Charter principles are valid, and there is, you know, also a question about the accountability. What happens if you breach those principles? So we have reached, first the core group has reached agreement on technical level on how this tribunal will be set up, and now we also have the endorsement on political level. So it will be done by the Council of Europe, so also the Secretary General of the Council of Europe will join us via video tomorrow, and it is important that the agreement is there. I just remind you that for the UN after the Second World War, the UN was also established not by all the countries and the UN Charter, but those core countries. So of course countries are ready or can join when they wish to, but it's important that we have the registry of the crimes, we have the technical details, how it's going to work, and also it will be set up then by the Council of Europe to address the crime of aggression and the war crimes.
Suspending US participation in the process of establishing the tribunal is one of about a dozen important concessions that the new US administration has made to Vladimir Putin. I fail to see a single concession on the part of Putin. And I hope that President Trump, being so well known as a negotiator, will draw the right conclusion and start encouraging Vladimir Putin to become more reasonable through pressure and through negative incentives as well. Mm-hmm. Now, on Ukraine, what I did during this Gymnich was to share with all the colleagues a paper that was the result of a meeting on Bornholm of the Northern Baltic 8 with the Weimar Triangle. Because the situation is so fluid, we don't know the definition of US dropping its participation in negotiations. We felt it would be useful to Ukraine to draw up a list of the things that in our judgment, I'll be presenting this as my own paper, but it has broad support. What in our judgment Europe will very likely do for Ukraine, not just this year, not just next year, but for the duration. so that Ukraine can make its judgment, its national calculus of when is the optimal time for Ukraine to make a possible deal, so that Ukraine has an input into its calculations.
Thank you. Gentleman, first row.
Thank you very much. Olivier Beau from AFP, Agence France Presse. A question for you, High Representative. You just announced 1 billion euros more for the Ukrainian defense industry. I was wondering if you could give us more details on that. Is it part of your initiative, the so-called Kallas initiative? And for you, Minister, if I may, Germany has announced a stricter migration policy at its border step by step. Is Poland willing to accept this, and under which circumstances? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So if you want to have concrete name of the initiative that this 1 billion goes, then it's the Danish initiative, because it's the defense industry initiative. So to really support the Ukraine's defense industry. So we are going to make available the funds from different member states to defense industry. It's separate from the ammunition initiative that we are still working and also gathering support for. No.
Border controls were a subject of my conversation with the new German foreign minister. And what we've decided to do is to do what we did with the previous government, which is to arrange a visit by the German interior minister to the Polish-Belarusian border to see how effective we are at stemming the flow of illegal migrants, which is stimulated by Russia and Belarus. We now have an effective wall with sensors, with patrols. It has been reinforced. We also have suspended right along the border for 90 days, for another 90 days, the right to apply for asylum at that point. And this seems to be very effective indeed. So there are still about 700 attempts per week to cross that border. By our calculations, 97% of them are unsuccessful. Remember that the existence of a seamless border has become a fact of life for people living on both sides of the Polish-German border. You know, people commute to Szczecin from while living in Leknitz, and the border infrastructure almost doesn't exist. So these are controls on main highways, which are causing great inconvenience to local people. So while understanding each other's politics, because as you know, migration is a hot issue everywhere. It's hot in Poland, in Italy, in Germany, in Britain, in the United States. We need to demonstrate to our people that only people who have the right to be on our territories are here. So, but we need to find technical ways of minimizing the inconvenience for residents.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Second row, the lady.
Thank you, Raffaella Scheidrate for the Austrian broadcaster ORF. First, a question to both of you. Did you discuss the Commission's proposal of a ban, of a phase-out of Russian gas imports by the end of 2027? If you did, could you give us, or could you kind of draw us the mood picture, the willingness of the member states to comply and to accept? And second question to the High Representative, you mentioned that a majority of member states agreed that the situation in Gaza is untenable. What do you mean with majority? And is it correct that you have planned to publish a written statement, but had to go back to a kind of verbal statement due to kind of a blockage of member states? Thank you.
Yes, first on the energy roadmap. So yes, it was mentioned, and mostly, actually by 26 it was welcomed. And by one it was not welcomed. The
and
roadmap.
it's always the same one.
Yeah. I mean, we are definitely, I mean, working with this further. And what was good, I mean, the arguments that you know, this roadmap can't be used because of, you know, energy limitations to get access to energy. And then, you know, it was good to see around the table member states actually offering help to solve the problem, if that is the real problem. But of course, the foreign ministers are not in the position. It's not our file to discuss. But of course, because it was a big thing, then very briefly we touched upon this. On Gaza. The mood around the room is, like I say, that you know, this situation is untenable. That is the mood around the room. But like it is very often with our common statements, is that you know, they get stuck with you know, certain words and sentences. But I think I can speak, and you can also assist me there. I can speak for the broad majority of the member states that this is the position that was pushed, and what I was also reiterating before.
Thank you very much. This concludes our press conference. A good afternoon.